I call this meeting of the Perryton Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. If you'll please bow with me for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for letting us be here today and just be with us. We go over the needs of Perryton ISD and just help us make the best decisions for Perryton ISD. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Ms. Morello, do we have anyone signed up for open forum? Okay. All right, I have David Pearson from the Perryton Bass Club. I would like to, before you get going, I would like to remind you that you have 5 minutes to voice any concerns, that the board will not address these concerns as an open forum item. I believe some of your concerns are actually on the agenda, so they will be addressed at that time. That's all I have. You have the floor, Mr. Pearson.
First of all, I'd like to say thanks to the board, and especially those that was on the board 4 years ago when Mr. Admire and some others came and asked for the permission for the bass club to get started in Perryton ISD. Because you know, we're right in the middle of good old fishing country. 5 hours in any direction, good fishing hole. But since that time, 4 years ago, we have had about 38 students involved in the bass club. And the number of men that have sponsored boats and things to go around with everybody to do what we do. We've had some athletic kids that have been on bass team. We've had some kids that were non-athletic kids that were on the bass team. And we've had some of the kids from the special education department that have found themselves on the bass club and enjoying the sport of fishing and doing what they get to do out in the outdoors and finding something that they can do. So thanks from all of those for, excuse me, ain't supposed to happen, is it? But since that time, some of the accomplishments that the Bass Club has made as a represented Perryton ISD. 2018-19, we had 2 teams, one of Stephen Cook and Natasha Hardy that fished in the regional tournament, along with Kyler Corbin. Also went to the regional tournament in the 2018 season. Last year, we had 3 teams, one of Carson and Stephen Cook, Michael and Rhett Shea, and Andrea DeDario that fished in the regional tournaments. Andrea qualified for the state tournament last year, which was a pretty big accomplishment. Unfortunate, due to the COVID pandemic and stuff, they canceled the tournament and she wasn't able to fish in that time. But that kind of gets us right down here to this year. We've got 7 kids involved, 4 dads, and a great lady, Shauna Mount, who is working on her 3rd year as team advisor for the team. And she does a lot of work for the team, making sure all the registrations are done, making sure that all the paperwork, she's in contact with the kids at school, doing a lot of things. She puts a lot of time and effort into what she does for the team. And as a team, we appreciate the fact of what she does. But as of this year, the 4 teams that we have, Carson Cook and Michael Shad is setting 13 out of 176 teams. Pretty big accomplishment, I think. Dakota, my son, and Carson Eisman is sitting in 55th place out of 176 teams. The Perryton school as a whole, there's 32 schools in the North Texas district that we fish in. which there's about 176 teams out of those 32 schools. In Perryton, he's sitting at number 22 right now, which I think pretty good. I mean, they're as far away from water as we are. We're making a lot of good accomplishments, good representation for the school that we're doing. So that kind of gets recaps of what we have done over the last 2 to 3 years, kids that have been involved. Because I can tell you for one kid, Carson Cook, who is extremely grateful, the kid that sat in the team that sat in 13th, his freshman year experienced a knee injury in football. He's had a surgery already. Dad told me now he got 2 more surgeries to come. Will never play a high impact sport again. But fishing is something that has allowed him to continue with that sport of competition and the things that you learn through competitive sport and everything. So I can tell you that Carson Cook is extremely appreciative of the Bass Club in Perryton ISD and everything. But that kind of brings us to what we're here tonight about. And I understand that 4 years ago, when Mr. Admeyer came to the board, it was said that the Bass Club would cover all of its own expenses, that we would be kind of a self-supporting club. The last 3 years, we've done that. 3 years later, we find ourselves all kind of in unfamiliar waters with the downturn of economics, a pandemic that 2 years ago, there's not a person in this room, if you told us 2 years ago what happened this year was going to happen, every one of us said ain't possible. So we find ourselves in a little bit different predicament than what we have in the years gone past. And because of that, the Bass Club, along with other organizations, has found it a little more difficult to raise money, to find sponsors, to get the funding that we need to keep our kids fishing and everything. So as we look at that, and I know Mr. Morales has kind of made the recommendation to all of the groups that we take it easy on our fundraising in the community. He made it known to us. I mean, we do some, but he said, man, back off. And the community's hurting. The economy's hurting. We're all hurting, and we understand that. But with the downturn of all of that, we're coming back to the school board asking for the possibility of some financial support for the Bass Club. Basically, what we're asking for at this time is for Miss Shauna, the supervisor, the advisor, or that if there's any way possible that the school, because we are required to have a supervisor and advisor to have the club, and we're asking if there's any way possible that the school board could approve to pay her expenses to any and all tournaments that she goes to with Perryton ISD students. Along with that, in the consideration is if we get students into regionals or state tournaments, the state tournament is a 3-day tournament, which adds some pretty big expense. 3 days of motels, food, fuel's a little bit about the same, but there's some added expenses to our teams whenever we get to state and regional tournaments. So in a request, if it's possible, that y'all can see fit to be generous and help support the kids and keep Shauna on as our advisor, and because I know financially she's struggling also, just like most of all the rest of us. And so thank you, and I think I'm at my 5 minutes is done.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. All right. Now we're moving on to reports. Superintendent's report. First, we have student and staff recognition.
Yeah, the first thing we have is earned mastery in 6th grade math assessments for the first 9-week period. These are the students: Milagros Espino Gutierrez, all 100s, Adam Brown, John Ryan Daniel, Aaron Treviso, Carter Miller, Cooper Schilling, Jackson Hernandez, Juliet Meyer, Alan Marquez, Besserell, Weston Hill, Jesus Lopez, Jacob Schickendance, and Kevin Terrasas.
All right. Okay. Next, we have a Phillips 66 donation to talk about.
Yeah, I think Paulie, Mr. Dimitri can tell us a little bit more about this as we get there. But we had a huge donation for the junior high robotics, over $5,000 from Phillips Petroleum. And he'll know more of the details of how that connection happened and came about. So when he gets there, when he gives his report,
He'll go over it at that
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, fantastic. Always good to get support. Okay, next we have trustee training hours.
Just looking through the training hours of the board, Mr. Beal has on tier 4 has gotten 3 hours, child abuse an hour, and cybersecurity an hour. Looks like Joe Ogden, again tier 3, has 11.25. And then for child abuse, he got an hour there, and then another hour for cybersecurity. And Monty, I didn't have yours in here, but I think you did one today.
I got cybersecurity and child abuse.
So you got 2 of them?
Yes,
All
sir.
right, 2 of them done today.
This question.
Oh, I'm looking at the old sheet. Here's the new sheet. Yeah, he got that today, child abuse and cybersecurity. Lloyd Cater and Mike Heck, who are going off, so they're going to wave bye to us and stuff. And then, like I say, the tier 2 guys, that's no one's fault that there's no hours in there. We're waiting to get 2 new board members, and that is training then that we will do team of 8 training, and then all those hours will be filled. But that's kind of where we're at.
All right. Next on to PISD COVID-19 status and update.
On the update there, Wright is still, we did total virtual there. They will come back on October 22nd, which is not too many days. And then Ranger Roundup, just for the community to know, we had to shut it down. Again, we had a case go through there, and there were quite a few students that were having to be quarantined, and we had a teacher or paraprofessional or somebody, they were wearing a mask, which is good, but our kids were so young they didn't have masks on, so that qualifies them to be exposed. And so that's, according to the state regulations that she had to follow, we had to shut him down for 10 days.
Okay.
And then we will have an update a little later on that's in our agenda on some other things that we're wanting to do with the COVID-19.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the CFO's report, Mr. Kyle.
First is our disbursements report. I think it starts on page 8. We have a check pending for October, and there's 1 page of those. And there's 1 to 8 of those on the second sheet there. Page 18 is the checks paid for the month of October, and this is in the 2021 year.
Doug, before you get too far, back on page 15,
Sure.
nursing tuition, what is that?
Some what?
Nursing tuition, clear at the top, page 15?
That's the vocational course that we conduct with this consortium in Amarillo College. Mr. Sterling.
Okay.
It's a pretty significant cost too. You'll
Well, that's
see
what jumped
that.
out at me, so.
Yeah.
We had it last year for the first time. We sort of sprung on us in the middle of the year, and I made it where it worked. This year we have it budgeted and everything, so it's a really good paid course You might talk about what it does.
It's our health science technology pathway where students can, they take principles of health science and then midterm, and then they get into their practicums and they go into hospital rounds. It's for students who have an interest in going into the medical field, either as a nurse or a doctor. They can get EMT certifications, pharmacy tech certifications. It depends on what route they go. But this is in lieu, normally you would have a teacher, certified teacher, a nurse that becomes a teacher teaching these classes. But because it's such a high demand, they're hard to come by. And this is basically what you're spending on this is basically the teacher, because the college is providing the instruction for our students.
Well, thank you.
Hey, do you know how many number of kids did you say are enrolled in that?
It's over 50.
So I was thinking, I was saying 53, 54
50 in the
kids.
principal's class, and then you have, probably another 30 to 40 spread out in year 2, 3, and 4. I don't think we're in year 4 yet. I think we're just in year 2.
I know this is first semester tuition, and we sort of had an issue with them. Kelly was comparing the enrollment with, once they're on the roll, the very first, they charge us for it. If they drop out, we still have to pay for it, so it's sort of a weird deal. Presumably, someone else could come in then without, without cost, so that was sort of a little anomaly.
Okay.
And it's, we get CTE funding with the state. It's considered instructional time for that, which will
Nice balance then.
Help it out.
The next section is our checks paid for the 2021 year for the month of September. Starts on page 18. And then page 21 starts the checks for paid in September for the 2021 year there. And then we have September check prior fiscal year. It starts on page 36. Okay, our financial cash position and book balance reports for the month of September starts on page 44. Our cash balances, there's 2 pages there. We've got the August balances, and then we have the September balances. For our accounting system, the balances from August 31st that haven't been really transferred over to the balance sheet accounts yet. We'll do that right before the end of the month here. When we're still working on getting those cleaned up. That's sort of the way. So we want to rerun years and get the prior year cleaned up, and then it's all adjusted, and then those balances, the adjusted balances, then get moved over to the new year, and then next month it'll all be back to normal, so to speak. So David, the general operating funds, on page 47, are reconciled balances of $7,612,274, include CDs of $7,515,000. Include the schedule, and that's on page 48 there. Interest and sinking funds of $179,1206, include CDs of $167,224. The schedule of those CD is on page 50. Cafeteria funds of $2,623. Special education funds of $171,128. Activity accounts of $374,860, include CDs of $310,992.60. This is on the facing page here, page 56. Ranger Roundup, $12,937. Capital projects is just a 1 CD, or church project CD. Okay, page 60, we've got a sort of projection. We're pretty well close to winding up last year. We're projecting that we'll increase our fund balance for this year of about $2,050,000 approximately. Could be a little higher. We still had some utilities to accrue back and a few other potential expenses, but the maximum we're estimating that's not to exceed $25,000. So we're projecting that we end up the year with a fund balance of about $6,900,000 compared to the prior year balance of $4,841,000. And sort of like we did discuss last time, the biggest reasons were the comptroller's T2 number came back and generated some more foundation revenues, and then we had some additional loan proceeds from a prior year project added into fund balance, and then various expenditures that we didn't have to spend money on. So the financial statements that back those up here are, you can see on page 61, our revenues of $21,169,014. These numbers should be real close to our audit. I think we're not aware of anything else that would change those numbers other than just the final bills there. And our capital items on 62, you can see total 265, includes the same projects that we've been looking at. In the financial statements themselves, the revenues, our budgeted revenue was $22,324,000, and we ended our realized revenue of $23,250,000, which is about $900,000 more than what we anticipated. And then in totals on 65, 66, our current budget was $22,383,000. Our expenditures year to date was $21,169,000, which was $1,215,000 less than what we had budgeted. All in all, you'd think it was a pretty awesome year financially. That might be the only area of this year being awesome.
That's what I was gonna say, hang on.
That happens to be my department though. Food service, we adjust our transfers in to balance out the food service revenues, to zero out the fund balance. So you can see our revenues of $1,019,415 includes the transfers and expenditures of the same amount. So we anticipate that's going to stay the same. Everything. We did make an adjustment and allocated salaries from 240 to 242 and got that fund sort of balanced out. Everything's good to go on that. Debt service funds, the same numbers that we had last month. We ended the year with an increase in our fund balance of $119,272. Okay. Manager roundup, sort of the same way. We've got total expenditures for the year, and these numbers should be final numbers. $421,413. Local revenues of $179,000, state revenues of $18,000, other resources of $223,000, which that $223,000 is split between the transfer from our general fund at 50% and 50% due from the hospital district to cover that subsidy. So you can see on page 79 there those numbers. Operating transfer in, or we ended up having to subsidize $111,891 each. And then I've given you the details of detailed accounts of all of those off of the there on page 81 and 82. Next, we'll switch gears and go into the month of September. On page 83, our revenues of $1,671,310, expenditures of $2,102,000. Our original budget that we adopted, we were a balanced budget of $22,127,693, which is our revenues and expenditures on both sides of that. Food service funds, 77,000, expenditures, revenues of 22,000. We should look better next month. The seeing for food service report, the reimbursement was split for September that we received in October. The NSLP program for a couple of weeks, and then the SSA program, different federal programs. The reimbursement for that worked out really well, so it should help things quite a bit. Look back to her report, you can see those numbers there, she was listed there. Okay. Debt service funds, really no transactions for September at all. The tax receipts that we received in August, we approved back to last year, so nothing there yet. Range around on page 97, expenditures of $34,905, revenues of $24,870. So next month this will be the end of last year. I'll just have a little final summary page for the general fund there to give you the final numbers there. So we'll be ending up the last year's reports. Sort of a repetitive, it's the same things over and over. So, okay, next, last but not least, is our enrollment report. As of October, or date here, our total number of students, 2,130. A year ago, 2,202, compared to 2,127 at the end of September, for September, additional 3 students there.
Doug, is there a different way that they're calculating ADA with HB3 that I've missed, or with distance learning and whatnot? You can see when the total number of students went up by 3, we went up by 80, our ADA on that bottom line. Is there just a different calculation that I'm missing?
That's a membership number. This is not anything to do with ADA. This is just strictly enrollment numbers. ADA is, when the students are there and present, we get counted for attendance, and that's the ADA number. Of course, the ADA is weighted for different programs and all that kind of stuff. So
What's the difference between ADA and membership?
membership is just everyone who's on the roll. It's really, it's related to ADA, but this is just a snapshot of the number of kids enrolled as of that day.
Okay. So I'm still confused how enrollment can be lower than the number of students, and then the opposite the next month, but.
I don't know, maybe one of the principals could address that. The first, I know there's new students are added periodically, and people check out and leave periodically, so it's
Right.
just sort of a fluctuating, changing balance, I guess.
Okay.
ADA versus enrollment.
Talk about the number of students being counted for attendance is more than membership.
No, on the bottom, yes, it shows more than membership, and by varying percentages depending on the month.
Is it more in one given month, or is it?
For example, I'll just throw out, in August, total membership of 2006.6, so we only had 1/6 of a student enrolled there, or 6/10 of a student, versus 2105, 2115 versus 2015 versus 2127, 2095 versus 2130. If our total number of students enrolled, I mean, my question really was, what is total membership? And if
Yeah.
it's numbers that are enrolled, why do we have more students
I do know
than we have
that
enrolled?
pre-K and Head Start are half days.
Right.
That might have something to do with it there.
Okay.
I know you get funded for pre-K on a half-day basis for ADA, and the same with Head Start too, so.
Okay.
Maryville might know more about that.
I'm gonna get with Kelly.
We're gonna get with Kelly. We
Let's
Ray
find out
marked
for us
that. We
next
want to know
time.
that answer too. Okay, what is that?
Sorry, you don't know my
No.
brain, you don't know my brain
No,
works.
it's okay. Good question.
Yeah, on page 104, when we're talking about food service, the NSLP claim was 29,377, and the SSO claim was 61,000, which is really quite significant for the total of 91. And we'll receive those in October for September. So that's encouraging a little bit.
Okay. Right. Do you have anything else with the financial report, Mr. Call?
No, sir, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Call? All right. Moving on to the director's report, which we will start out with Ms. Walker on the food service report. Do you have
There
any-
she is. She appeared.
Yep. Do you have anything to add to your report?
Yes, effective Friday, we will be serving kids through the SSO program the rest of the year. So everyone will be free through the rest of the year.
That's
We
at all
are-
campuses.
Yes, we are encouraging them still to fill the application out because that helps in other areas. But everyone will be free, and as you can see, that doubles, almost triples your money, for that month. It doubles and a half, I guess, but anyway, it doubles your money if we're feeding everybody free. So that's a good thing. And as long as we can keep snack bars open and keep kids in school, we're gonna see an increase in that, and it'll be a whole lot better. And we got it Friday, and I've already been approved, so. we're good till the
Fantastic.
end
That's
of the
good
year.
news.
I amended the contract, and we're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walker. Any other questions? All right. Now moving on to Ranger Roundup Learning Center.
As you look at that, you can, pretty much our report tells you about what happened with the COVID-19 positive test.
How many kids were quarantined, staff not quarantined?
I went there. Dr. Rock, do you have anything to add to her report? You visit with her pretty often.
Well, no, she's had some extra time out with the staff that are still there to do some additional training. And they did go in the day that it closed with the misters. I know Ellen was able to secure the mister to go in there and do some deep sanitation. She had the opportunity also to start drafting the interlocal agreement with Seaboard. So that will be going to legal department here pretty soon so that we can hopefully get that started. And I think that's about it. She may be getting ready for some other rooms for infants. I know we have a need for 2 additional rooms for infants. We have a waiting list for infants at this time.
All right. Thank you. Okay, going on to maintenance report, Mr. Camp. You have anything to add to your report? Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Camp? Okay, athletics, Coach Haberther.
Since I did that, cross-country boys are doing the state ranking now. Top 5 teams in the rankings are all in our region. We'll see a good race, go to Lubbock on the regional meet. Possibly be a fight at the finish line. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Haberther? Thank you, Coach. Okay, communications. Obviously, Mr. Clark's not here.
Do you want numbers on COVID? Because I can call him. He said he'd answer the phone. Good.
I don't
Okay, 'cause he's got all our numbers of which campus and everything. Okay, we're good.
Okay. Alrighty. Technology report, Mr. Throgmorton.
I can't think of anything to add.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Throgmorton? Joe? Were you just stretching your hand? Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
My hand's going.
Okay. Luditania Martin Accelerated Education Center.
Nothing to add, it's all in there.
It's all in there.
Sure.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Congratulations on your 3 students.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
Very excited.
Okay. PHS. Mr. Sproul, do you have anything to add?
Well, I just want to mention that we're coming out of our second wave. The first wave was early in the year with athletics, and that was an isolated case going out of town to a game. We quarantined those students pretty quickly and kept it within that program. This last one is really not school-related directly. It's more, we've had probably 130 plus kids that we've had to quarantine this round as compared to probably just under 30 in the first wave. So it's at least 100 students more. We had 7 students test positive in the first wave. We have 27 students in the second wave. The good news is they all should be coming back by this Friday. So we're coming out of it. The kind of some misinformation I'm hearing out there is that this is tied to our athletic events, and the second wave is not en masse. Over 100 of these students were community spread, meaning they were going to places on the weekend, parties, birthday parties, cookouts, just family type gatherings, and not parties. So that's where the second wave, by and large, the vast majority is linked to those types of exposures. We've been working with our students to educate them that they do a great job when they're during the school day at Perryton High School wearing their masks. No case or quarantine student has been linked to any of our classrooms. I think we're doing a great job wearing the mask and keeping exposure to a minimum during the school day. It's outside the school day that kind of our challenge. So we've been educating our kids. Real proud that our students at the game Friday were all in masks, up in the stands. You know, it's outdoors. It was cold. They were packed together. And they're starting to understand that the masks are keeping them out of quarantine and reducing the spread. So fortunately, we don't have a third wave, but this long 5-day weekend, we'll see what we get with that. Again, it's all the decisions that our kids are making because they have cars and they're young adults and they're making these decisions. And I know the parents are doing the best they can too to help us, but the kids need to put it into action when they're not on campus. And I think they're starting to get that. So hopefully we can prevent a third wave coming. But they're doing a good job at school for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Sproul? Okay. Let's see. Williams Intermediate, Mr. Cates.
It's all good at Williams.
All
I
right.
see it.
Got the junior high.
I see it.
Oh, sorry. Junior high, Mr. Garcia.
President Kidder, did you want me to talk about that Phillips 66?
Absolutely.
So Mrs. Eiler has a connection there with headquarters to Phillips 66, and she reached out on behalf of our junior high and our robotics team, and they graciously donated all equipment we need to compete this year. So Mrs. Woods is in charge of that group of boys that are all part of that program. This is our second year to try to initiate and grow that program, and we have over $30,000 worth of software and hardware in that classroom, and all of it, $1,200 has come from donations. So $1,200 is from general supplies over the last 2 years that we as a district have invested in it. The rest has been all through grants and donations, and we've had local donors, including the oh man, t-shirt company off Main Street just lost, Game On Graphics has donated, competition, shirts and that the kids designed, themselves and did all the graphics for, and G-Bos has donated, ball caps, for the kids to go out and compete and represent, our school. So very, very blessed, to be part of this. And a big thank you to Phillips 66 for this donation.
Absolutely. Okay. Do you have anything else to add to your report, Mr. Garcia?
No, sir.
All righty, well, thanks for the good news. Any questions for Mr. Garcia? Okay. And Wright Elementary. Ms. Beats?
Good.
All good. All right. Any questions for Mrs. Beats? Okay. Perryton Kinder? Mr. Felix? Okay. All righty, any questions for Mr. Felix? Okay. Okay, that concludes our directors and campus reports. Now on to curriculum and instruction report. Dr. Wright.
I have a couple of things to add to the report that I submitted last week. And I just want to thank all of the administrators and directors that helped in developing our asynchronous, synchronous hybrid plan that we submitted to TEA. It was 32 pages and it got approved without additional revisions. So we were very happy to see that letter from the Commissioner of Education.
Imagine.
And then second, I just want to add that we have a dyslexia staff request. 3 years ago, our dyslexia program had about 19 students with 1 certified teacher and 1 paraprofessional. This year, in 2020-2021, we currently have 49 students with the same staffing from 3 years ago. So we have not grown in the staffing and our student needs have grown. So we are requesting an additional staff through paraprofessional to assist in our dyslexia program to ensure that we are servicing the students, in addition to ensuring that our dyslexia teacher and coordinator for the district has the required 450 minutes every 2 weeks for planning purposes. So at this time, she is not able to plan for or have that planning time. She's planning for the students, but she's doing it on her own time. So we are asking for an additional dyslexia staff request there.
Paraposition.
Yes.
A paraprofessional, yes.
Mr. Morales, what's our status on paras throughout the district right now? Are there any areas that we're long in, or do you
No,
feel
well,
like we need?
This is kind of what's happened to us. As we're going through the district, Dr. Rock and I were looking at different things we're seeing. And one of the things we saw was gifted and talented. And there was a paraprofessional in another building that we could transfer over and take that up. So that was a smooth move. Right now, I don't think there is one out there that we could move. So this could be a budget amendment, later on if we add a para position.
All right.
That's what I wanted y'all to be aware of. That's why
But I
added it.
certainly don't know our needs throughout the district. But
Well-
I know when we kind of got out of line on excessive
Yeah.
employees, that's
people.
kind of what, we added positions that we actually needed, and it sounds like we need this position. But sometimes
Yeah.
as other areas became less necessary, we didn't,
Well,
we didn't address those issues.
Well, what's happened with this dyslexia, the state didn't even recognize it, a few years ago.
Right.
Now we recognize it, and we started doing all the testing and finding out how many kids are. Well, you saw how it's grown.
Right.
And we only needed one at first. Well, now that we're identifying more kids with those issues, which is great, because those kids are struggling.
Right.
Now we need more people
Right.
to help service what we're doing.
You're right. I agree that we need more help in that area if we're serving that many students.
And just to answer just further your question, we have had some reassignments in the district where we did have a need at the high school for a special education teacher, which those positions are very difficult to fill. We did have some reassignments, and we reassigned a teacher from Wright Elementary to fill that high school position, given that they are certified K-12. And we did some additional roles and responsibilities for Williams staff, and we're sharing the paraprofessionals between Williams and Wright Elementary to ensure that we're still servicing the students that have the special needs.
Okay.
And let me say that because the principals have been very good. I mean, a lot of times mine is mine in my building.
Right.
And they've been very good at letting us do that, and I'll say it with them here. So allowing us to use our resources district-wide better and more economical, you know, I think we are doing that right now. I mean,
Okay.
that's our attempt anyway.
All right, that's all I needed to know. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else unless you have any questions.
I have a question. On our gifted and talented, it says we have 12 students on our list of tests. How do we identify those students for gifted and talented testing?
So typically they do a screener, and based on that screener, they move forward with additional testing.
Okay,
And then the testing determines if they meet eligibility or not.
okay,
And this year, we will be testing all of the second graders.
okay,
Or they will be screened, and then from there, we'll determine which students need to be tested.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, moving on to the annual bilingual ESL program evaluation report. Excuse me.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have a report submitted, I believe, in your board memos, so I won't go over the details, but I would like to highlight just a few things for you. This year we are serving 663 ELs in the district, and we do have currently about 31 students in our dual language program, which is at pre-K and K. So super excited that we're able to get that going, and we're looking forward to expanding that into first grade next year. So come spring, we'll begin to identify those needs, training and staffing and what that's going to look like, and resources, and to begin to prepare for next year. So we're really excited about that. In the past, we have asked for an exception, a bilingual exception from the state, because we've been unable to provide a bilingual program in our elementary school as required from pre-K through 5th grade. And so we will not have to file that exception this year for pre-K and K. We will be filing it for 1st grade through 5th. And so that does reduce the number of teachers that we are asking for the exception to cover. We will also be filing a waiver this year for our ESL program as well, for teachers who need to be ESL certified. So add that information there. Our TELPAS testing last spring did get interrupted due to COVID testing, or to the COVID virus, but for the most part, we were able to complete that. We had many things already in place with we did have a couple of kids that finish that, so that's why it looks like we didn't have a high number of our students completing, only 563 students completing that assessment in the spring. So I think we had about 700 kids that we served, so there were a number of students that we did not have results on because the test was interrupted and some other issues that came as a result of COVID. However, what we did see from that is some of our percentages. When you look at grades K through 2, 41% of those kiddos grew with their language skills that progressed one level or more. That's 41%. When you look at 3rd grade through 12, 30% of our ELs grew one level or more with their language skills. And that's all domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So our goal this year, we're really targeting trying to increase those percentages across the board. We feel like that is a number that we can do better with. We're targeting improvement, especially on speaking, was one of our domains that we feel like we could really see some improvement in. And you can see from our professional development plan this year, we're targeting that in a lot of different directions. Our instructional coaches this year are doing some great work by implementing some of those targeted strategies as well as the other content-based things that they're doing. So we're seeing some great work across the district with our instructional coaches, and I feel like that's going to be critical. We've also got some other key trainings in place. Stacey Barnett from Region 16 is really working with us on accountability so that we understand how TELPAS plays into our accountability system, and our teachers are have a better understanding how to address those specific needs. So I feel really good about the plan that we've got going for this year. We did reclassify 34 students, which means they were considered English proficient. And so they met all of the criteria to be considered as their native English speaking peers. So in spite of everything with the testing last year, we were able to do that. So again, we're always looking to increase that number, but felt really good about it given the obstacles that we had last spring. Do I have any questions about this report or the program in general?
I would just like to say that I'm very excited about our bilingual program and the opportunities it gives us as a district. So thank you for all your hard work on it. Does anybody else have any questions? Alrighty. Thank you. All right. Okay. This board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act 551.074, discussing personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. To order. Okay, first on the agenda we have the minutes of the prior meeting. I believe we did have a mistake where for the special meeting that Tyler is listed as present and absent. So at this time I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of both board meetings with the correction to the special meeting on Mr. Merkel's attendance.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the meetings with said corrections. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, discussion and/or action items. We have consideration and possible action on campus improvement plans. Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Morales?
Yeah, my recommendation is we approve the campus improvement plans. Dr. Rock has looked at them. It is a living document. There may be some small percentage of changes on them on how much improvement we want to make, but recommendation is that we approve them.
I believe we've discussed this at previous meetings and had a chance to. So does anyone have any questions on them? Any discussion? Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the campus improvement plans.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the campus improvement plans. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, discussion and possible action on funding of BASS team. We all heard Mr. Pearson's presentation. I think Mr. Pearson noted that when we agreed to allow the founding of the BASS team 4 years ago, they said there would be no expenses to the school district. Mr. Pearson acknowledged that and then also asked that we come back and consider just funding for the advisor, just funding for the hotel rooms, gas, and per diem. I believe it would be at an expense if they qualified for the state tournament from the numbers we're being presented with, it would be an expense of about $4,000 a year. So, Mr. Morales, do you have a recommendation on what we should do here?
Well, my recommendation is, you have to be very careful when you are dealing with clubs and sponsors, that you don't open the door and have every club coming to you and saying, we sponsor this. My recommendation probably here, he's just asking for hotel and I believe travel for the sponsor.
Just for the sponsor,
yeah.
not the students or
Right.
any of the other parents.
Right, and so I'm probably okay with that we're not doing the whole club, we're not doing all the students, just that. So that'd be my recommendation.
Okay. All right. Well, then at this time, I would entertain a motion that we approve funding for reimbursing expenses for travel, hotel, and food for the advisor only, not the students or other parents,
For this year.
for this year.
Motion.
I've got a motion from Mr. Cater. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve funding for fuel, food, and travel for the advisor only of the bass team. Any further discussion?
For this year.
For this year. For this year, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right. Consideration and possible action on the possible suspension of remote learning. I know there will be some discussion here, so you have the floor, Mr. Morales.
We have been talking about this and for quite a while on, how well we were doing with our remote learning, how many students were learning, a lot of the issues with it. What we have seen lately, a lot of local schools in this district have suspended remote learning. Just to give a name a few: Dalhart, Childers, River Road, Freona, Dumas, Highland Park, Lubbock, Roosevelt, and I believe Hereford is in the process now. Dimmitt has already done that. What everybody is finding is that probably 2/3, somewhere right in there, of our students that are remote and chose to be remote are not learning. We are having issues with them either not logging on, which creates attendance problems because we get paid by attendance, and doing that. Not completing the work. Just a lot of things here. I believe those other districts are like us. We're looking after our students first, okay? And it's not a lot of students, I had the numbers from the high school of how many students were, 46 of them chose virtual. At the junior high, it was 45. Williams only had 4 students, and Wright had 27. Of all those schools, Wright is probably having the most passing rate for how they're doing it. They chose to do it per teacher, not every teacher having to do that. Kinder had 6, 3 of them are not doing well. But 2/3 of even those number of kids is not acceptable, in my opinion. I think if we tell the parents you need to bring your kids back, I think it's going to be better for the kids. In the long run, it'll be better for the parents. The other issue that goes along with this COVID stuff is not the technology, but a lot of our teachers, we're asking them to teach face-to-face, and then we're asking them to teach virtually, and some of it's a hybrid model, and people are wearing out. I'm just telling you, we've only been 9 weeks. And I'm having people say, man, I don't know if I want to keep teaching or not, and we definitely don't want to lose our teachers through this. And we were talking earlier, our veteran teachers, they're going, maybe I need to go ahead and retire. So I'm hoping this don't do this, but I think this would give our teachers a little relief. It would allow us to teach our students better face to face. There will still be, we're giving them basically, it's their to remain remotely, if your student is quarantined due to exposure, if your student has a positive test for COVID, if you're medically fragile and have a doctor's prescription, and then again, if we, just like Wright, we didn't have enough staff to keep the building open, if we had to close due to a number of adults not being able to do that, then they would all have the option to still learn virtually or remotely. The options on the opposite side of that, if you choose, here are the options. First, you can do face-to-face. You can withdraw your student and do homeschooling. You can enroll your child in a private school, or you can request transfer to a district that offers remote learning. I don't take this lightly, guys. I'm looking at this as what is best for students, and we've always said face-to-face instruction is best for students. And so I think right now this is a chance for us to make a move, like a lot of the other local schools have, to try and take care of our students and our staff, and this is an opportunity to do that. So
your primary motivation for suspending the remote learning would be that well over half of our students that are doing the remote learning are failing.
They're not successful.
Not being successful.
They're not being successful.
Not being successful.
And I think the face-to-face will one, it gives kids a chance to be successful, and two, it gives the teachers a chance to be successful with them also, because we're not being right now with that. Students need structure in their life, and when you're at home and both parents are working, guys, it's hard to do that. And this kid's trying to do it himself. They're not responsible enough is what I'm trying to say, to be able to do that. I'm not many adults that are responsible enough to do that. But I think with the family struggling and the whole issue, there is a safety issue here. I know that, and a lot of parents are going to see that. Guys, if you heard Mr. Sproul and you listened closely to what he said, very few of our cases happened at school. Most of our cases, the first one was the athletics that we brought it in, and then the other one was kids going to parties, socialing with each other, everything else, and then bringing it back to school. So I think we are doing the very best we can to make it a safe environment. We need a little help from the parents and from the kids to keep our numbers down. But again, I think we have a safe environment, and I think that face-to-face instruction is definitely the best.
So
Instruction.
we would still have the remote learning for students who are quarantined, students who have COVID, students who are medically fragile and have a doctor prescribed homebound placement, or if we close the campus, we would still have a district or campus closure. We would still offer the remote learning in those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do that because of the situation we're in. The thing that's a little different in this is the number of kids. I don't even remember when we had that first huge spike. I had one teacher at the high school that went from 4 kids remote to 44 overnight, and that's such a tremendous burden on that person, and trying to do that and grade those papers and make sure all those kids are active in that. So that would pull the ones that have chosen back to school, so then we would only have the kids that. And I can tell you this, from our Black Monday, we call it Black Monday when all our kids were exposed or had COVID, the 22nd, we're getting 50% of those kids back. So our number's going to drop here pretty quick again, of the number of kids that were exposed from that first deal.
So if you're recommending that we suspend remote learning except in the cases of that were listed, what kind of time frame are you looking at?
The state has mandated that we cannot do, or we have to give the parents at least 14 days notification. So we are looking at November the 10th as being the day that we want all students back face to face. They can come back prior to that if they choose to, but we're wanting to do that. And we're also going to have our principals make phone calls and let the parents know, how to come back. The other big issue in this letter that we're going to put out is that if you do have devices and you choose not to come back, we need our devices back, all our technology back. And as when you come back, bring the technology with you also.
Okay.
That's another huge one then as well.
I got to spend a whole week with my daughter out in Tennessee. And traveling with her, we talked quite a bit about what they're doing in the remote learning. Guys, it's quite a burden on her. She's a great teacher, very dedicated, and her nerves are shot. I mean, it's just, first of all, some of her students, she can't even make contact with them because they won't contact back. They won't get online. And to teachers that are really dedicated to reaching their students, that bothers them quite a bit. So, I came back with a different view of this after spending some time out there.
Well, did I read somewhere, I think it was in Mr. Garcia's report, that we're finding that the kids that go on quarantine are really good about doing their assignments and keeping up with distant learning, but the kids that chose to do distant learning, they're not keeping up with it, they're still struggling.
Yeah, he put in there 2/3 of the kids that chose distance learning are not doing well. But our kids that have just contacted and doing that, they're doing fairly well. But again, they only have 14 days and they know they're coming back.
Yeah.
So, or 10 days, whichever the case may be.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? At this time, I would entertain a motion that the board vote to approve Mr. Morales' recommendation to suspend remote learning as of 14 days from now.
Motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, consideration and possible action on probationary contract for teacher, Mr. Morales.
Yeah, this is, I believe, over at the junior high. I'm trying to remember, Dr. Rock, do you remember exactly the person, science teacher? He lost a science teacher?
Jacqueline Herrera.
Jacqueline Herrera, okay, I couldn't think of the name. And so he's having to replace her.
With Adrian Langford, is that?
Yeah, with Adrian Langford.
Okay.
So we're not adding, we're replacing.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the hiring of Adrian Langford, Perryton Junior High science teacher. Is that a probationary contract?
Mm-hmm.
For a probationary contract. Have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, and then next we have consideration and possible action on timeline for superintendent evaluation contract consideration and non-certified and certified administrator contracts and teacher contract consideration.
Right. Basically, it tells you the months, December, January, February, of when we do those contracts. It's basically just saying, here's when we want to do them. Mine, again, is in December, but I don't think the contract is offered till January. Is that correct?
That's how we've
Can I
done it
make
in the
one
past.
change to your page?
Yes.
Once you get past December 15, we should all be 21s.
Mm.
That was my comment.
So we have the superintendent evaluation in December, the superintendent contract in January, certified, non-certified administrative contracts in February,
Mm-hmm.
and then teacher contracts in March. So,
And that's 21, because it is January is
Yes.
21.
Which is really no different than we've always done, just memorializes it with a motion.
okay.
Mhm.
Only thing we had talked about, doing something different on scheduling meetings, those are all, I know
Okay.
they're not concrete dates, but,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
But the months would stay the
months
same.
will be the same, but
yeah. I do think we need to look at, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tyler, because we do have events sometimes around these days, and if you're all okay moving a day to miss an event that a parent wants to be at or somebody, I'm
So
good.
we have some advance notice.
Got to get some advance notice on it, so we do need to look at schedules, which we need that. I agree with that.
You know, and I think we need to discuss it meeting by meeting. I know, used to, it was common for us to say, hey, guys, our next month's meeting is scheduled on this date, but we have a
Band
basketball
concert
game.
or band concert.
Or
or
we
something.
have a band concert. Can we move it to this date? So I
we don't
think,
pull our phones out and look.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
And we do a month by month.
And does that get voted on, or is that just kind of a discussion of consent?
I don't think we need to take action on it. So it should have just been a discussion item, really, rather than an action item.
So every month we just need to put that on the agenda then?
At
Or
the
we
end of the month
discuss-
to make the date for the next
decide
board
the date
meeting.
of the meeting.
Right.
And you know, we used to do that.
Yeah, I
We
saw
used to
that.
have
In the previous
uh,
one.
next month's meeting.
And I won't be here the 17th, so.
You already did that one.
Okay.
For next month, so.
We won't be here next month.
No, on the 17th.
Be here to tell me about
Y'all can hug tonight. That'd be just fine. Well, no, you can't hug because we have restrictions.
Yeah, you can't. 6 feet.
So,
He's gonna kick me in the butt more.
all right. Well, I believe that's the last thing on the agenda, so if there's no further business for the good of this meeting, meeting adjourned. Ooh, 8:21, good luck.
We did good and got through a lot of stuff tonight.
It is.